Thank you, Mr. Fogarty and Assemblyman Engelbright. So our first speaker is Mr. John L. Turner. He currently works part-time in the Division of Land Management of the town of Brookhaven, involved in the town's open space and farmland protection program. He also serves on a part-time basis as a conservation policy advocate for the Seatuck Environmental Association, working on a variety of wildlife and water quality issues. He formerly served as Director of the Division of Environmental Protection in the town of Brookhaven's Planning Department, a position he held from December 2003 to December 2010. In this position, he had administrative oversight of the town's open space acquisition program, the town's wetland permitting program, its compliance with the State Environmental Quality Review Act, as well as other environmental protection activities. From July of 2000 to December 2003, he served as Director of Conservation Programs for the Long Island chapters of the Nature Conservancy. Prior to this position, I honestly, he sent me quite a lot.
The point is, he can't hold the job.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Please welcome to the podium.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to not use the microphone, if that's okay. If you cannot hear me, please do maybe just let me know, and I will start using that. I wanted to just let you know, Assemblyman Engelbright's bills, if you're interested in actually seeing them, I don't know if you ever go into the legislative websites, but the New York State Assembly has a website that's very user-friendly, very easy. So also is the New York State Senate website. If you go, I usually go through the assemblies first off. You go into it, you'll see a little box that'll come up that says bill search. And the bill number for Steve's bill, the council bill, that's the one that really most directly relates to the window bird collision issue, is Assembly Bill 4055. Also, it's the same as bill, or actually it's 4055A because it's been amended. And then the Senate bill, which is, I guess, Senator Hoylman, right out of Manhattan, is Senate Bill 25025. And if you go into, again, the bill search, the bill will come up. You can see what action's taken. You can see how as it moves through the committee process. You can, of course, read the bill memo, which is the attached document that provides kind of the rationale, the justification, and the details of the bill. And of course, you can read the bill text itself directly. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that. And I want to thank Steve again. He's been an absolute stalwart on almost every environmental issue that faces the state. And you're right, we had a rough start with that bill, but we'll get a great finish, aren't we? We are. So hopefully this legislative session to really advance the issue forward. And I want to say just one brief thing about that, and that is Stefan and I were chatting right before the conference started, kind of how this issue has really taken hold. And I know a lot of people here, Dr. Elvin certainly has been involved in this issue for a long, long time. Dr. Sabina has been as well. Is kind of been like a voice in the wilderness. I know Dr. Daniel Clem out of Muhlenberg has been one of those voices. For decades have been doing research and documenting this issue and this problem, this very significant problem. And publishing papers and presenting those papers at various public forums. But it really wasn't taking hold, taking root. That has changed. And it is amazing, and it's really, it's heartening to see all of the media attention. And you may have seen in Newsweek the major article that came out in the last couple of weeks. There was the article that just came out within the last week about which metropolitan areas or urban areas in the country, actually in North America, that are really problematic for birds, from window bird strike perspective, both in spring and fall migration. But I think Chicago was the worst. Damn Chicago. But New York was there, Toronto. So anyway, it's great to see the issue getting attention, and more importantly, it's greater to see the focus that this issue is receiving in a public policy arena by legislators both at the state level and federal level that are dealing with this. So what I want to do is just for about maybe 25 minutes, half an hour, just run through the issue to provide those of you that may not be that familiar with the details of the issue, what those details are. And then turn the microphone over to the Dr. Eldon, who will have really a nice kind of parallel to what I'm providing here with a specific emphasis. So where's the, there we go, okay. So one of the aspects that allowed this issue to get a lot of attention, I think, goes back to a paper that was in the Condor back in 2014. Again, a lot of people have been talking about this issue and kind of anecdotally documenting, well, then, the bird strikes at I found 3 dead black-hole walrus at my library, or I found white-throated sparrows at, outside of 7-Eleven or what have you. And so people would see this issue all over the place, but this paper, to my thinking, was really critical, because I think it was, maybe say correct, but I think it was the first time that researchers really looked at all of the kind of the major studies and research to try to kind of quantify what's the magnitude and scope of the issue. And they did that, and you can see by what I put in bold here that the authors say we estimate that between 365 and 988 million birds die annually in the United States from window bird strikes. Let's say it's the lower number. No reason we should say that, but let's say it's the lower 360. That's 1 million birds each and every day dying in the United States, flying into windows, flying into most of the windows, but sometimes other aspects of the building features. And that's an issue here at Stony Brook University. And I'm delighted that you provided some comments. And the South Campus here has been really very problematic. We've found dozens of dead migratory songbirds, different species of warblers and vireos, swains and thrushes fairly regularly, unfortunately, and other species. And so, regrettably, Stony Brook University is not immune. It's actually very similar to a lot of other campuses. You look at the other campuses in the SUNY system, and there's been some efforts at some of those other campuses to address this issue. They've done it. The students at Duke University did a great job at getting the issue onto the radar screen of the administration and able to make changes there. So I'll make the plug, Mr. Fogarty, about the new engineering building that is proposed. We've written you a letter. We hope that you will, to the extent possible, incorporate bird-friendly building design in that new building. So now just take from that, you can see the frequency of the collisions. And what that paper really did, another important aspect, was it really eliminated a misperception about this issue. It's a misperception, quite frankly, I have to say, I've shared for a long time. I think that, well, migratory songbirds don't migrate at 15,000 feet. They typically migrate fairly low, anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 feet above the ground, right? So when they're coming down over urban areas, maybe coming down to feed, that they're slamming in at the 80th floor of the skyscrapers all around, in Toronto and Chicago and New York. That's not the case. Actually, the reality is that most of the collisions happen to buildings like Endeavor Hall, with the mirrored glass, a one-story building that's got really problematic glass from a bird perspective because it reflects the surrounding landscape and all the trees, and that's what the birds see. So it's really the low rises and it's the homes or houses that together really create the overwhelming problem. Skyscrapers are really a relatively low percentage. I guess this, Dr. Eppman, you may be talking about it. I've read some cases where they can be especially problematic where you get a really large kill because of that. But overall, in terms of what they contribute to the overall problem numerically, it's relatively small. So again, you can just say, what I did is just did a little bit of math and said, well, 365, 988 million, this amounts to between 1 million to 2.7 million birds dying each and every day. So I just wanted to put it in the context of New York. So I said, if we make the reasonable assumption, given the size of New York and the presence of city and other major urban areas filled with buildings, is it reasonable to estimate that 1/20th of the national mortality total involves birds in New York State? If we accept this assumption, between 50 to 135,000 birds are dying in New York each and every day from window bird strikes. 150 to 135,000 birds every day just in New York due to this issue. If those, again, figures are accurate. To get you more depressed, I sort of don't want to get depressed because there's some really good news about this issue we're going to talk about. Okay, but it's not a problem that is restricted by any means to Stony Brook University, to Long Island, to New York, to the United States, to North America. It is a worldwide problem. And I was chatting recently with one of the exterior window film manufacturers, one of their key people, and he told me that in the last year he's traveled to 17 different countries on behalf of his company, selling their product. He spent a lot of time in South Korea, apparently. He's been really got a lot of interest. He told me when South Korea, they have the highways and they put up the window with transparent, like plastic dividers between the lanes. Birds don't see those plastic dividers and boom. So they've been putting this exterior window film on a lot of the glass or clear, transparent plastic dividers in Korea. So it's an issue that is unfortunately a worldwide problem, and unfortunately is being dealt with now on a worldwide basis. You may have seen this, to put this in context, about this slide that shows about what are the contributions, what are the activities that are really the drivers for bird decline. Forget about the numbers. I'm not sure I think this number is too high, quite frankly, from a lot of other research that I've seen. But we know that both feral cats and free-roaming pet cats appear to be the primary cause of mortality for wild birds, songbirds in the United States. Behind that is windows. And this figure, 599, I should say, with that Condor study, that was I think the median, or the mean that they had between the 365 and the 988. So that's where that 599, or almost 600 million birds, comes from. And you can see how it's very, very important, and it's the second leading cause for bird decline. And quite frankly, my perspective, probably of those two major issues, the easier of the two to try to deal with. You want to really get involved in a complicated, controversial issue, start dealing with feral cat colonies and trap neuter release and all that. It gets really difficult. Anyway, there are in North America, there are many dozens of species that are known to have been window bird strike victims, but it doesn't happen kind of evenly. It's not as if you have the same number of robins flying in as blue jays to a window. There's certain species that it really is very problematic. So I just went through and took photos and listed the top dozen or so species. White-throated sparrows really being bad, and then you've got a whole series of warbler species, again, common yellowthroats and ovenbirds, dark-eyed juncos. You've got this looks like a hermit thrush there with a rusty tail, and then the two kinglets. We'll find kinglets everywhere. Kinglets really do seem to die alive. Some more warblers over here. It looks like we've got a black and white warbler. We've got here this bird I like to call the flying meatloaf. That's the American woodcock, which is the only shorebird, I think, that routinely flies into windows. And one of the reasons why is that interestingly, if you look at a woodcock, how they've evolved, their whole feeding strategy, probing for earthworms and other invertebrates in the ground, their eyes have evolved to move towards the back of their head because they want to see predators that might be behind them. And so they've got great monocular vision, but they've got very bad binocular vision. They can't even, I have read, I don't know if it's true, anybody's talked to a woodcock and asked them, but if they can actually see right in front of them. And that appears to be, they did not evolve in a landscape with buildings. And so woodcock do die regularly. At Brookhaven Town Hall, where I do work, I have found 4 dead woodcocks over the last, say, 7 or 8 years, just along this. And it's, I guess, the only shorebird that we found. And then again, you've got a few catbirds, and then 2 other passerines, sparrow and a beautiful, really fascinating black-pole warbler, which we've recently learned more about its full migration, which is really worth learning about. It's a great story of ornithologists who detect work. Fortunately, not all window strike victims do die. That bird that's at the bottom, I think these are your photos. Those are mine? This was the day we did the work. Was this mine alone? Okay, I thought we were together. Anyway, we have put up, we being Four Harbors Audubon Society, have put up about 2,000 stickers, small square stickers, both some that reflect UV and some that are the American bird conservancy bird tape that don't, but just still on the window allow the bird a bit better chance of seeing the window for what it is on South Campus here. And I was putting up stickers one day and came across this bird. This is a female common yellowthroat, and I could tell from when I saw her like that she was a bird strike victim. And she was laying down in the gravel right next to the one of the windows. And I went back to my car, got a cardboard box, because I know there's a lot of cats on campus, and put it over her, because she was alive, and left that box on her as I did the rest of the work I was doing that day, for about another hour, maybe an hour and a half. Came back, lifted the box, and that's what I had on the right-hand side, and she immediately took off. So the hope is that she would be okay. But in fact, a lot of birds do, even after they survive the strike itself, will succumb to their injuries. You just don't see it happening there. So the name of the lecture is Reflections on a Transparent Problem. And the reason I gave it that name was to really try to underscore the two primary characteristics of a window, not a problem. Primarily, how they reflect, obviously, the ambient and surrounding landscape. We'll go into detail except to say this building, we're working with the owner now. That is Northwell Health. If you know in Nassau County, if you head West Line Expressway, you get off at Community Drive, just west of Shelter Rock Road. You're heading to the North Shore Hospital on the right, that whole complex. That's the first building you come to. You make the right, it's this, and then there's the rest of the Northwell complex as you head north on Community Drive. Got a phone call from the person that is actually the environmental officer for that building, David Flamio, who said he's tired of seeing the dead birds. And on the back side of this building is a 450-acre estate called the Green Tree Estate that became famous because recently with an amphibian salamander article you may have seen in the paper this week. But at the end of the day, so these birds that are resident birds in the forests of that estate, as well as migratory birds, literally fly out from about where that back wall is, and here's the building, and that whole flank they see the trees reflecting. They really have a major issue on the back side of the east side of that building. So they will be working soon to apply an exterior window film over that building. So, which is good news. But anyway, you just see, I really need to say nothing more, but you can see how it's a problem. And again, it's a problem with the lower buildings, some to a very small extent skyscrapers, with the lower buildings and people's homes. Here's a dead cardinal that obviously flew into that reflective window that was the sliding door, probably the back sliding door of the house. The other aspect is transparency. And you can really see how, again, that other component of windows is a problem. So what do we need to do? We're going to hear a lot more from, I think, Dr. Elman will talk about this, and representatives, architects, and the companies, that we need to provide a visual interference. We need to provide a visual disturbance so that the birds see the windows for what they are. And where this transparency, from my perspective, is where it's a real problem, has to do, even in a smaller setting than this, and I'll never forget it. I had the pleasure of working for Assemblyman Engelbrecht for a while. If you know where his office is, right up the road here, that building you would never think would ever cause a bird to die flying into it. It's got a regular sized glass front door, one, not a double door, just a regular door, and a back door. And I came into work with it probably a little bit late, I'm sorry. But and when I came into the back door, there was a dead swain's thrush that was right at the base of the door. And it was just that transparent, that tunnel that bird saw that it was trying to get through. And that's what thrushes and a lot of these migratory songbirds will move low down through the below the forest canopy as they're migrating. And so I think some really kind of narrow transparency problems can nevertheless be problematic for birds. It's not just this big transparent window that you see a bird could easily just try to fly through that, or fly through this causeway, which on campus, I assume we've got a causeway that's been problematic, right, Lucy? That, I think that connects physics, and it's never a problem?
That was
Years ago, yeah. So what are the solutions? Again, you'll be hearing more about what solutions, but again, I would very, very quickly say that the Audubon, New York City Audubon, National Audubon, New York State Audubon, and particularly American Bird Conservancy, Dr. Christine Shepard, who is a real expert of experts on this particular issue, have put together a very, very informative bird-friendly building design manual. I guess it's maybe 75, 80 pages. To me, the real crux of it is this first paragraph I pulled out. At least 90%, if you want to have a bird-safe building, John, this is for you, okay? Mr. Foggy. 90% exposed facade material from ground level up to about 40 feet, which is the primary bird collision zone. Again, it's a 40
We
feet.
only start our buildings at 50.
Oh, you do? So it's air. Then we can end the conference now. Has been demonstrated in controlled experiments to deter 70% or more bird collisions. So that's and I mean, there's a lot of very useful information. I encourage you to take a look at the whole manual, but that's kind of the guts of it. And also trying to really reduce transparent passageways. What I have found on campus here with regard to both common yellow-throat, it's probably all species, but common yellow-throats and white-throated sparrows that have died at South Campus, I've seen a number that have flown into the last window. They are trying to cut across. They think that they see the little transit windows like this, and they just, for some reason, just don't go around the extra 5 feet, go around. They actually do try to cut the corner. And so the transparency is important to really try to offset that, but put some other visual interference. So we give the two windows that are 90-degree angle, really do not provide a passageway to the bird to go through. I'm not going to get into this detail. Maybe Dr. Elby, if you want to talk to you, I think more about this. But again, this is Dr. Shepard up here, who is at the facility, probably with a little songbird in her hand. She's about to release into the testing tunnel to see how the product that she's testing fares. Basically, what it is, it's a tunnel. There's clear glass, and then there's the product they're testing, and interested in seeing to what extent the birds fly. They see the visual interference of that product that they're testing and fly towards the clear glass. They do not die, they fly into a net. But again, Dr. Elvin will be talking, I think, more about that. Another really important strategy that can be employed is the use of frosted or fritted glass, again, to provide that visual interference that birds need. That is typically little dots that have varying widths. The latest I understand is really ideally would be 2 inches by 2 inches, or certainly no less than 2 inches by 4 inches, which I'll show you in just a second. But and that could be really should be embedded in glass. I guess it's like an acid etch that creates when the glass is created. Other companies you'll see that do that with a window film. Another whole strategy that companies are employing now has to do with taking advantage that birds see ultraviolet light that we don't see. And I forgot to bring, I have a sample that I got that really showed that quite well with a UV flashlight, which you can see down over in the right-hand corner of that really reflecting. So what you got the painted glass is what we see, so we're not really, our aesthetic sense isn't disturbed at all, but this is the Mikado pattern that for this one company that makes it, that you can see what the birds would see. That is, they see that visual interference, they see the window for what it is, and this just shows the visual light spectrum and again how it's shifted and how birds can see down into the UV range that we can't see. So we can take advantage of that. Again, another product that is very promising that's being used in a lot of settings is again applying. You've already got the windows up, right, John, on the campus here, and maybe the South Campus here. Maybe through time we have to send them an for some funding to begin to retrofit the buildings on South Campus by, because you're not going to replace the windows, it's too expensive. But maybe we can apply the window film over some of the windows, and it provides kind of basically that fritted glass pattern to provide the necessary, again, visual interference for the birds. There's another company, Kaleidoscape, that has an exterior window film that is complete. There's no bird that is going to fly into that, right? But on the inside, you can actually see out. You can see out fairly well. This is the product that you'll see a lot on like city buses and buses here. The murals that you see on the exterior of the bus, but when you're inside the bus again, you can see out. That's basically the gist of the product. Quite effective. And we put a few kaleidoscope samples at the Town of Brookhaven Town Hall. They work quite well. Again, tapes, decals, screens, netting, and string are all effective. Dr. Sfida has employed the most effective technique so far on South Campus to eliminate window bird strikes, and that is on the back of this building. I encourage you to go take a look. There's netting that runs most of the length of this building that's been attached to the pillars, and so the netting is out far enough from the windows that at a time I've never checked, I've never seen any issue with birds with the netting. So netting can definitely be effective, but it probably is going to be a technique that's going to be, like many of these, just employed in very specific locations. They really have, that has relevance more to probably residential settings. These strategies probably have more, and products have more relevance to residential settings than they do to larger commercial. 2x4 rule, I'm going to let Dr. Elby talk more about that. Again, it's something else, a lot of architects, again, I'm almost stealing thunder from our architects, but you can do things, it has nothing to do with the UV glass, but you can do things to the front of the building to, again, provide visual interference. What doesn't work? It's largely, again, hawk silhouettes, unless the silhouettes like here, somebody put them right here, are at such a density that they really allow the birds to see what they are. The migratory songbirds are not deterred by a hawk silhouette that's put on a window. In single window decals, that's why we try to, we need to put more decals than we have on some of these windows. We try to put at least 2 decals per window, maybe sometimes 4 or 5 decals per window. Because of course the more decals, the more likely the bird will see the window. And then just some other things. Plastic owls, not effective. I've seen in literature people throwing that out as a strategy. And at that point, I'm going to, the Lights and Lights Out program, Dr. Elby's going to talk more about, and the 9/11 Memorial. I'll just say for more information, you can go into any of these great websites. Again, there's a great organization up in Toronto with the Fatal Lights Awareness Program that have really, to me, in a way, they're the pioneers of this issue. That began back in the, I think, the 1980s, and certainly normally in the 1990s. We're really concerned about the migratory birds dying in Toronto. And some people were so wonderfully motivated to get involved. Very concerned. In New York City, Audubon's got great stuff about this. Dr. Elby to talk about, and then some of the other groups. And on that note, I'll leave you a nice, pretty photo of a dead. Again, we want to stop this, right? We all feel this in our heart. We all see this. It's like, this is absolutely immoral. It's wrong, and we want to stop this. We want to change things. And so, it's a delight to participate in this get together today to really, again, work together, all being common spirit, common mind, to begin to really deal with this issue in a meaningful way. So that's it. I'll turn it back, I guess, over to Garrett.
If you'd like to stay up maybe for 5 minutes for questions.
Oh, okay. We do questions now. I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sure. Anybody has questions?
If anyone has questions for Mr. Turner or any of our speakers, please.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Would it be effective if there was a strategy that wasn't very friendly for the person who's applying it to do things seasonally? Do you think, like in spring and fall, like if you could convince someone to put up netting for a certain time period of the year, would that be a factor, or is that just not worthwhile?
Yeah, it could be very effective. Particularly, most window bird strikes occur during spring and fall migration. Not exclusively, but mostly.
So you might be able to talk someone into doing it for a period of time.
You can. The issue there is you have the people power resources to go there and put up the thing. You put it up and then take it down.
Yeah.
At least twice a year, each and every year. And in some cases, that might be the solution. Again, one size fits all doesn't work. There are 1,000 different solutions in 1,000 different settings. Almost each building is unique in terms of its setting and probably the magnitude of its problem. And so that might be an appropriate solution in certain places. Yes, right.
Do you have any advice for a homeowner who is dealing with a protective or territorial mockingbird that flies into a window? Like you're talking about migrating, but like I have a situation where the mockingbirds are going after their own reflection sometimes.
Yeah, they do that. Yeah, cardinals do that routinely too. I don't know if you can hear what Brian was saying, but he's got a very aggressive mockingbird, territorial mockingbird on his property. What can he do? You could shoot it.
That's my favorite book. I don't kill mockingbirds.
What you want to do is it's obviously this. I assume you have some mirrored window or something that's going to. You just have to break up that reflection enough so it just deters it. I mean, the problem is I've seen at least photos on the internet of northern cardinals flying and attacking the side view mirrors of cars. So if it's that small, it's still going to. I'm not sure. Dr. Alton, do you have any recommendations?
First of all, if they're attacking the reflection, they're not going to kill themselves.
Right. Yeah, they're not flying in. Yeah, they're right there just like this and against the window. At least what I've seen, I've only seen a cardinal do once.
We have a cardinal that does that to our car mirror and one of our house
there you go.
windows. And I just put a piece of cardboard over that one window and that was it. Because it was just a little annoying to constantly hear like who's knocking.
And it can't be good for the bird. I mean, ultimately, it probably.
It doesn't hurt. I mean, they're trying to actually bite what's right there, so they're not going to break their neck or hurt themselves. It's just a matter of it's a little annoying sometimes.
Yes.
I want to thank you for highlighting the problem we have here at the South Campus.
Yes.
And what can we do? Let's say they decide not to do anything about the windows here. What can we do? Like sometimes I try to turn my lights off because I do have a robin attacking my office window sometimes. Turn the light off or turn it on, or we have one little square in my office window, but the window's gigantic. I don't know.
Why don't you talk to us? We're happy to put a lot more squares on your window if you want that.
Sure.
Yeah, we definitely. Let's just talk after, find out where your office is, and I've got a box still full of several hundred rolls of stickers that we could cover up your whole window.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Just you referred to this bird safe building design pamphlet that
Yes,
you said was
bird
really
friendly.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Is there a website or something you can give us so that everyone?
Dr.
can
Elvin's
read
going
that?
to go into that in more
You
detail.
will- oh, okay.
There's two webs. Yeah, you can either get it from New York City Audubon or go directly through American Bird Conservancy, but we can share the link directly with Gary.
Yeah. Good. Yes.
So I'm curious. So obviously there's a problem down here. Interestingly, the South Campus buildings are ones that have an overhang, which certain situations casts a shadow and creates a difference in the color and the contrast of glass, which, come to think of it, is not unlike my particular situation when, back at architecture school. I'm wondering if we have anecdotal information about other bird strikes on other buildings on campus.
We do. Yes. In fact, another professor was here, Heather Lynch, I believe. Okay. She has documented, I know Lucy also has information about windows that she has seen, that are in Doug as well.
Yeah, the social science, we're anthropology, what's the social science? Anyways, right next to life sciences, and I've quite often, during migration, walked around the outside there and had birds around that building, which is not an exceptional building. It doesn't have vegetation very close to it or whatever. So my thought is, if that building is accumulating, a fair number of birds, I would imagine that probably all over campus there's at least some sort of, whatever, relatively constant, low-level impact. But as John pointed out, if you sum this up over, you take your average building, even if it's 20 or 30 or 40 birds per year, that's going to get up to 1.
John, what we've now looked at, by the way, we need to, and again, it's the way my full harvest Audubon had, is we really, our first focus was South Campus, and then secondarily maybe the main campus. We've not gone east, and they've gone on the east side of the, but there are a lot of mirrored glass buildings, the hospital complex, that are worrying, at least, as you drive by to look at them. So we really need to spend some time walking around the base of them and see what the issue is there. I suspect it's an issue there, but I can't say definitively I've seen.
I haven't been able to access that yet. HSC, I have not ever. I've got one dead jumper once.
Okay.
And just as an
Yeah.
aside, you mentioned ceramic frit glass. The one example that we have on campus is one side of the Mart building, the side that you can't see from Nichols Road, has an example of the ceramic frit
Oh, great.
glass
Okay.
in a decorative
Which building
pattern.
is this?
It's called the Mart. It's the newest building. The Mart is actually the research tower next to the what's called the hospital pavilion, which has
Okay.
the children's hospital name on it. But you have to go around and get to the front. And
we
I'm
work-
sure it's done purely for decorative
Yeah.
purposes.
Well, that's fine. Sometimes decorative purposes work for birds.
It's the
too.
east side, yes.
It's
Yeah.
east facing.
Yeah, east
facade.
facing.
So,
Well, that's still, anything is better than nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, so with this Fritted glass there, thank you for having that put in.
I had nothing to do with
Take
it.
credit for it.
I think it's attractive as well.
Michael?
Yeah, so sort of maybe more of a comment than a question, but you know, it's certainly the case that we tend to notice these in some places, and sometimes there's different factors that affect when you notice bird strikes and when you don't. Things like scavengers that might pick up carcasses, things like just the number of number of people that happen to be trafficking in a certain area in front of a building, and so it's entirely possible that the places where we see birds on campus specifically are not necessarily the places where most birds are striking. There are ways to study that. You could design a monitoring program that would specifically go out at certain times to try and get a sense for where, what buildings on campus are potentially the highest priority for action.
I think Garrett's going to be speaking to that. I think Garrett and Catherine are both very interested in, again, we want to follow up. One of the things we'd like to follow up this conference in terms of kind of meaningful work products or additional steps would be to implement more of a study protocol on campus, right, to get better documented.
So any support for a program like that, which my advisor Heather, who had to leave unfortunately, she was interested in looking into that in the past, and one of the things she ran into were various red tape issues to do with collecting carcasses, because it would have required different facilities for handling those through the biohazard rules. So support and interest among the Stony Brook community for designing a monitoring program, kind of like CLAP, I think it is in Toronto, or
Right.
other
Yeah, they have-
programs. That would go a long way towards identifying specifically which buildings might need addressing the most.
I will say quickly,
Okay.
on the monitoring program, we unfortunately haven't had much time to plan that out, so that will likely have to wait until the fall semester for us to start working on that and actually get it started. But we hope to get maybe other students as well. It might just be me because I like waking up early, other people don't. But if as many volunteers as we can get, and actually I think Dr. Elvin might be talking about D-Bird a little bit. We might be looking to try and get that to be a program people use on campus, try and get some citizen science there. So yeah, we'll be needing some help with that. I'm sure we'll be receiving some emails in the future, but yeah, I might as well just go over that now.
Can I just throw out, very quickly, one thing that I forgot to mention when I showed you the top 12 birds that were the strike victims? What's fascinating about it, again, there was a paper that I just saw fairly recently that tries to tickle out why that's the case. And so I want to make it clear that for some birds are never window strike victims, apparently. And you look at warblers again, people are so attracted to warblers, they're so colorful, right? Butterflies in the bird world, you go them in the height of many natural years, spring migration, when the warblers are passing through along with other colorful songbirds. And yet, common yellow-throat, again, are routine window strike victims. Other birds aren't. I've never, ever heard of a prothonotary warbler being a window strike victim. Other warblers aren't. And so it's interesting, and that may actually help us come up with answers. Why is it, and what is it about certain species that they're able to avoid? I mean, what we do know at a gross level is that migratory songbirds typically fly into windows more than residential, birds that are found in an area that don't migrate, like blue jays and so forth. They do fly in, but not nearly as much, and it may just be based that they know their landscape much better than a migratory bird that doesn't. So there may be just that simple an answer. But it's fascinating that if you take a look at even certain families or genera of birds, that there's a real kind of mixed response to the window bird collision issue. Carl, I'm sorry, you had to
Yeah, this is, the thing that Heather ran into about picking up dead birds and them being a biohazard and stuff like that is totally absurd and should not be accepted by anybody because it has no relation to reality at all. Nobody gets sick from handling live birds, and they're not going to get sick from handling a bird that hit a window, period. And that needs to be simply rejected.
And most of the birds that hit the windows are the healthy individuals anyway, so.
Right.
But it's not just an institutional thing. I encountered this, that I was walking outside Life Sciences one morning, happened across a dead warbler, and I wasn't even picking it up. I just bent down to look at it, and someone passing by going to work was like, "Oh, don't touch that. You need gloves." So it's a public sort of community issue. There is this fear.
It's a hysteria that has no relation to any risk whatsoever.
Right.
So whoever makes the rules, this rule has to be totally rejected. Biophobia.
Well, we have a lot of experience with that, so I can talk during the break about that. What you need is a permit because it's a migratory bird, so you have to have a permit to handle any piece or part of a migratory, even migratory bird. So that's really what we need. When our monitors, we have protocols that we're happy to share with you.
No,
We do-
that's not
we do
the issue
persistence.
here, Susan.
Well, the issue is they're giving a wrong reason for letting them do something. But they do need a permit.
But yes, that's a totally different issue.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to, we're going to get too far behind, right? I don't want to. So I'll conclude with that and.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Move to the next.
Yeah,